And as we breathe in, we let ourselves prepare now, our hearts and our minds, for a time of meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seats. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a few deep breaths. Let go of any distractions or any worries that may be on your mind.
One life, one love, one peace in our lifetime, one life at a time, one truth, one world, one peace in our lifetime, one life at a time, one life, one love, one life at a time, one life, one love, one life at a time, one voice, one choice, one peace in our lifetime, one life at a time, one prayer, one dream, one peace in our lifetime, one life at a time, one life, one love, one life at a time, one life, one love, one life at a time, one life at a time.
And so I invite you to take those words into your heart. One life at a time, bringing peace to our planet, peace to our world. One heart opening to that deeper dimension that we all have within us, the Christ dimension, one heart at a time. And as each one of us opens to that deeper dimension, we help to bring forth a world that is kinder, more compassionate, more caring. And so I invite you to move your attention deep within the body as we let go of anything that's going on in our world, any cares, any worries, any thoughts, maybe the hurry to get here on time, whatever's been happening so far in your day. I'll invite you to just kind of leave it gently behind for the moment. And as we sink our awareness deep within the body, we can move our attention to the soles of our feet. If we're sitting where our feet are on the floor, just notice what that feels like. Feel yourself grounded in the moment. And as we move our attention upward through the body, we notice our hands. How do your hands feel right now? You feel our backs against the chair that we're sitting in. Get that sense that you're being contained, held, safe, and present. And so we begin to follow the breath in and out, not trying to change it or control it, just observing. And with each exhalation, we sink a little deeper into the body. We relax a little more. And now we move our attention right to the heart space. And you can put your hands on your heart if you choose. I invite you to activate a feeling of gratitude as you think about someone or something that you're deeply grateful for. It could be a beloved person in your life. It could be a cherished pet. It could be a warm memory that you have. Choose someone or something that activates the feeling. And allow that feeling of gratitude to radiate throughout your body. Blessing every cell with this high vibration of appreciation. So we let that feeling expand and radiate beyond the body as we create an energetic field of harmony and peace. And we open our hearts in gratitude to the one presence, the one power, the one life that is living through and as each one of us. We are grateful for the opportunity to be spirit in action on this day, to be the one that brings peace to our world, to our family, to our community, to be the presence of peace in action, to make a difference wherever we find ourselves. Every one of us here to be the one to make the difference. Wherever we are planted, we bloom where we're planted. And we can become the avenue through which spirit shows up on this planet. Opening ourselves to that deeper sense of who we truly are. And letting our heart guide us. And for this truth of our being, for the truth of who we are, we give grateful thanks in the name of all that is gracious and holy. We say, Amen. So it is.
It always seems there's so much space between where I am and where I'd like to be. And yet, when I stop to look around at the good life I have found, I can't help but see here and now I have all that I need. Here and now, this is where I'm meant to be. And somehow Tomorrow come what may, I will be okay as I learn to love here and now. I'm always running a half a step behind the image of my life that's in my mind. And yet, when I let myself slow down, I see beauty all around, and I'm reminded once again, here and now, I have all that I need. Here and now, this is where I'm meant to be. And somehow, tomorrow come what may, I will be okay as I learn to love here and now. I have all that I need here and now. This is where I'm meant to be. And somehow, tomorrow come what may, I will be okay as I learn to love here and now. Here and now. Here and now. Here and now.
Thank you, David. How fabulous. Has anybody ever told you you sound like Cat Stevens? Have you ever heard that before? That was beautiful. And it's the essence of my message today. So thank you for sharing that. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season and are as you step into 2026. I'm hopeful that we're having some renewed vision and anticipation for a transformative year. Can you all join me in that vision? Because I think it's important for us to be holding that vision together, that this will be the year for transformation. So my talk title, I'm going to call up my slide, as you heard, is We Were Made for These Times. And it comes from a book that I just recently read by a former Buddhist nun who wrote this book. Her name is Kyra Jewel Lingo. And the book is a wonderful reminder that we all have within us what we need to be successful, no matter what is going on in the outer world. Even it doesn't matter what it looks like out there. We want to remember what's in here. And there is a lot going on. Would you agree with me? This past year has, for many of us, has been one of fear, anger, outrage, hopelessness, overwhelm, exhaustion, chaos, uncertainty. There's just been coming at us. So it's a scary time for more than a few of us. And yet here we are showing up. And I love this. I discovered this. We're with a reminder that we belong here. We belong here right now. You know, we are here and now. We bring the gifts that we have with us into what's happening in the world. And every one of us belongs here. And the reason I can state without hesitation that we were made for these times is because in unity we have this pesky little foundation principle that says, there's only one presence and one power. We've heard that this morning in the universe, and that power is good. And when we hold to that foundational belief, that principle as the truth, then if we really believe it, if we start to live that principle, then we know in our hearts of hearts that nothing and no one can be against us. You may have heard this before. Even in these troubling times, when appearances are telling us the very opposite, we can hold to that. When life feels against us, that's the time to stand firm in that principle and stay rooted in the truth. Stay rooted in the truth. And out of that foundational principle, of course, come the other four. Um, if there's only one presence and one power, then each of us must be included in that presence. We're divine beings living in a physical world. And as Dr. King puts it, we're honoring him this weekend, um, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. I love that. You see, we're all tied in this garment of the same single garment of destiny. And it means we're interconnected with each other. As Thich Nhat Hanh would say, interbeingness. We're all in this together. So the third principle tells us it's the good news, bad news, that the thoughts and the beliefs that we routinely think or hold very close to our hearts will greatly influence our experience of our personal reality. They will influence what that reality will be. The fourth principle tells us, well, we have some spiritual tools that we want to use in order to connect to the truth of who we are and have this awakening that there's only one presence and so nothing is against me. We have some tools to use for that. But the fifth principle is, well, we have to use those tools if we want to see any transformation in our lives. We can't just sit and talk about them. That's good to do. But we need to take some kind of action to see change. We have to put these principles into practice and, in fact, begin to embody them in our lives. So the fact that we believe these foundation principles tells me one thing, that we can change our lives. It's very possible for us to change our personal lives. And beyond that, we have the potential to help transform our world by actually living those principles. Every single one of us can make a difference as we fully embody these transformative practices. I have really moved into embodied spirituality as a very important component of my spiritual path, and my ministry has become that. It's like, how do we embody these truths? Because if we want to become the change that we're seeking in the world, that's how we have to do it. And here's why. Spirit does extraordinary work through ordinary people, ordinary everyday people, but they have to be willing to say yes in these uncertain times, to stand up and say yes. The truth is, we are held by a divine strength and power that is far greater than whatever is showing up. See, whatever we're dealing with, within us, it's a mighty power that can lift us, that can carry us, that can sustain us through all the craziness that we might be encountering. We were made for these times. For this I was born. Now, the author is not the only one to bring us this message. The Jungian psychoanalyst Clarissa Pinkola Estes wrote a beautiful essay more than 2 decades ago entitled, "Don't Lose Hope. We Were Made for These Times." And I'm just going to read a few lines from that. It's a beautiful essay, and you can find it online if you want to read the whole thing. But as you listen to these words, just see where they land for you. She says, "My friends, do not lose heart. Ours is a time of almost daily righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters most to civilized visionary people. The luster and the hubris some have aspired to, while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking. Yet," she says, "I urge you to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially, do not lose hope, most particularly because the fact is that we were made for these times. For years, we've been learning, practicing, we've been in training for, and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement." Now, so This is not a new message for us, but it's an essential one, and it bears repeating in today's world. Although it was written over 20 years ago, it couldn't be more relevant or timely for us today. We've been learning and practicing these spiritual principles, and I truly believe by activating and embodying them, they can help us in through the dark times. And we want to start by seeing it right, as Eric Butterworth used to put it. He'd say, don't set it right, see it right. And that's the beginning piece. The author James Redfield posted this message: observation changes reality, so look with love. It's a great, it's a great message. And then he wrote this: in quantum physics, the observer effect shows that the very act of looking can influence what unfolds. Science shows us that our intention alters outcomes in our minds, our bodies, our relationships. So he says perception impacts our reality long before we speak or act. And the way we look at things matters. And so let's look at the difference. When we look at something with judgment, what happens? What happens in our body? We tense up, our nervous system gets triggered, even our fight or flight can activate. But when we look at something with love and kindness, something different happens. We relax. It's rest and digest is what happens with the nervous system now. And with a loving outlook, we bring forward the best in ourselves as we calm our nervous system. And guess what that does? It calls forth the best in others as well, as they are positively impacted by the peace and the harmony we are creating in our own body. It's just what we did during the meditation. When we create that energetic field of peace, not only does it bring forward the best in us, it can affect all those around us who are walking into that energetic field and are being calmed as well. I mean, this effect has been scientifically measured. When we radiate a coherent energetic signal, it helps to create more coherence in the world. See? Looking at the world with a grateful heart can help to bring this about. We've really talked about gratitude a little already this morning, but just gratitude is the secret sauce here. So, as always with transformation, we have to start here. We have to start within. We have to do our own internal work first and see what might be getting in the way of us creating this coherent energetic field. Why, what's stopping it? And when we discover that, we want to heal any division that we find within our own hearts, within our own psyche. That's sort of job one, right? Because once the healing happens here, we can work with the outer world in a much different place. That's what happens. You see, we start to see it right. And if we don't do that, then what we do is we just keep on projecting what we're divided. When we divide, it's kind of suppressing parts of ourselves that we don't think are acceptable or lovable or whatever. We're trying to suppress that. We'll just keep on projecting those things out onto the world. That's what we do. So there's a blessing in this for us. And when we can respond to ourselves with kindness instead of self-condemnation, instead of trying to push those parts away, if we can respond to ourselves with compassion, it can lead us to even greater compassion towards others who are similarly afflicted. Do you see? If I have a belief that I'm not good enough, and I do the work around healing that and integrating it, now I have great compassion for anyone else who's walking around with that belief and how it manifests in their life. And we want to get to that place of being able to connect with one another and see how we can be a loving presence in helping another heal that way. And when I respond to my own past or my own mistakes with love and acceptance, something shifts. Something shifts. Now those mistakes, those regrets begin to integrate, and a door opens that I can deal with the outer world in a much better way. Because I'm bringing my wholeness into the situation instead of coming instead of seeing through a filter of my divided, unacceptable self. Do you see this? This is really important to get. This is where the perception piece comes in. If I'm looking through a filter that's telling me that there are parts of me that are unacceptable and I'm hiding them, I'm going to see something much different out there than if I come from my wholeness. I'll see maybe another human being who's screwing up royally, but just like I do, kind of thing. And it can help me get to a better place about it. When we do that, when we heal that divide, we get our bloated nothingness out of the way. This has to be my favorite Emerson quote of all times. We get our bloated nothingness out of the way. So, do you remember the story from the book of John where Jesus has a woman brought to him who's accused of being caught in adultery? Now, it always amazes me that she's dragged there by herself, but that's a whole other story, won't get into here. And then Jesus utters those famous words, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." What a brilliant response that is. I mean, what a buzzkill for all the righteous indignation. It just puts a wet blanket over the whole thing, right? And so everybody drops their stone, walks away, probably muttering, or, as they say in the scriptures, murmuring. The Israelites murmured. And then Jesus asks the woman, where are your accusers? And she says, they've gone. Then his next words I find to be so profound, I take them to heart. He says this, neither do I condemn thee. Neither do I condemn thee. And then he says to her, go and sin no more. I'm off with you now. Um, go and live your life. You see, this story has such a wonderful message around judging. Judging. That's the thing that is showing up here. I'm sure you're familiar with Byron Katie's work. She does amazing work when people are judging another by having them turn those judgments around. And she asked this beautiful question, who would you be without that story that you're holding on to? That's running the show, really. And here's the thing, if I'm harshly judging another, I turn it around, I look within myself, and I find a correlation here. Okay, but that's not the end of the story. I don't just take judgment and now make it self-judgment. I don't go to self-condemnation. No, I find it in myself, but I forgive it within myself. That's the next step here. I forgive it within myself. And then when I do that, I can see the other person with different eyes, as seeing them as I said, a fellow human being who's screwing up royally, just like I do. Seeing it right. So I think of this process as a form of the Hawaiian forgiveness practice. If you've heard of Ho'oponopono, find it out there, judge it out there, turn within, find the correlation, and forgive myself. And then what's out there shifts for me. And why does this work? Because when I see it in another and I judge it so harshly, it's because I don't want to see something within myself. Do you know that projection is how the ego protects itself? We project it on somebody else. It's not about me, it's about that guy, right? He's the one. But when I start using the outer world as a mirror of my own internal state, remembering nothing and no one is against me, and with love and kindness and compassion, I forgive myself. Now what happens? Whatever's happening out there becomes a portal unto my own awakening. This is the exciting part. We can use it as a catalyst for our own waking up of who we really are. See? So when I meet someone who's behaving in a way that's hurtful, harmful, inappropriate, but I meet them with love, something extraordinary happens. The world subtly rearranges around my choice. And when I meet another's heart with compassion and empathy, the threads of separation between us begin to dissolve. Something new can come forth when, if I'm loving the unlovable, right? I might still take action that says no to this behavior. I probably will. But I do it from wholeness rather than from ego. ego projection. Now, let me be clear. Being made for these times does not mean that we accept injustice or cruelty or despair as normal. Not at all. Forgiveness is not condoning, it's not endorsing harmful behavior. Acceptance doesn't mean complacency or resignation. Rather, it's an acknowledgement and recognition of what's unfolding without the internal baggage. It's seeing clearly without imposing my projections upon it. This is not easy, by the way. This is the advanced class. This is not an easy journey. I mean, when I'm seeing such outrageous constant corruption and harmful behaviors, my first impulse is to strike out, not to be kind or forgiving. I have to cop to that. You can ask my husband. I'm watching the news at night. But the Bhagavad Gita, part of the Hindu scriptures, says if you want to look at the brave, you want to meet the brave, look at those who forgive. You want to meet a hero, see those that can return love for hatred. Again, this is another message of Jesus. Give love to those who persecute. So this is a very tall order for us. It's definitely the advanced course, as I said. But here's the thing: what's the alternative for us? I read recently that fighting for peace is like screaming for silence. My negativity just adds to the din, right, of the whole thing. And so, I want to do something different here. So there's two aspects to it. If I find myself judging another, to heal that polarization, I need to see them as human beings, making the same kind of mistakes that I do. Drop the stone. Do the inner work, find it in here, before I take action to say no, right? And the second part is, if the person I'm judging is me, and I will cop to that as well, I do the same. Instead of self-judgment, self-condemnation, I give myself a break. I give myself the gift of compassion, acceptance, kindness. Now, can you feel the difference here? Because it makes a difference how we treat ourselves. And whenever I find myself condemning, judging, beating myself up for past mistakes, for regrets, words, actions I wish I could change, this is the time to pause and remember, the Christ in me does not condemn. The ego condemns. The divine self never does. It loves lavishly, right? Neither do I condemn thee. Feel the kindness and the mercy contained in those words that we can give to ourselves. I've read recently what adultery means biblically, and referring to that story. But it's really, according to this book, mistaking the ego for the soul. Living life as an ego instead of the truth of who we are. So that was an interesting thing for me. So we want to learn to discern between those two voices, because while the ego condemns, the soul says, you are deeply loved. You're deeply loved. And yeah, maybe you made a mistake, but now learn from it. Go and be about your business. Don't repeat the mistake. Use it to grow, to evolve, to become more of who you really are. Use it, right, to grow into that. I love this stuff. It's exciting to me that we have this opportunity to do our internal work and that can help us become the truth of who we are. And I think it's time for us to blossom into the reality of who we truly are. A child will not learn in an unsafe environment. Not at all. And the same can be said about our internal environment. If I'm always beating myself up, am I going to learn anything? The answer to that is no. Because all my energy is going to go to creating defensive strategies that are trying to keep me safe from this internal onslaught. And they're strategies like numbness, projection, denial. And it takes so much energy to keep those, exiled parts of ourselves hidden out of our conscious awareness. Do you see? All those tactics are defensive strategies originating from an internal unsafe environment. See? So how safe is it to walk in the neighborhood of your mind? It takes work to shift that around, but I'm here to tell you that it can be done. It needs to be done. And I'm speaking as a seasoned self-condemnation expert. If we don't do this, we'll just project what we don't want to see within ourselves out onto the world. We'll just keep on doing that. I have to tell you, one of the highlights of the Christmas season for me is watching old Ebenezer go through his annual overnight transformation, because it renews my hope that no matter how long these conditioned patterns of behaviors or unconscious beliefs about ourselves, about the world, no matter how long they've been entrenched in my psyche, they can change. They're malleable. They're not set in stone. And so Ebenezer was able to transform from a hateful, miserly, angry, isolated old man into a loving, forgiving, generous soul. And guess what? It was gratitude that helped him get there. It was the gratitude of waking up and finding he still had time. He could do it. That's what made his heart sing with joy, right? So we can all do that. We can all become more loving. We can all become more kind. We can all become more forgiving by practicing those things within ourselves. So we want to practice feeling gratitude just as we did in our meditation. We want to activate a feeling of gratitude, let it grow and expand and radiate and bless all our cells and go beyond the body. Jesus always thanked God before he said even what he wanted in his prayers. It's like gratitude comes first. It doesn't come after your prayer is answered. It's the prerequisite to move into that place of prayer. So we want to feel these feelings, feeling kind, feeling loving, feeling forgiving, and then sustain those feelings, radiate them. And what happens over time is that it now becomes our baseline inner state. We become more loving naturally. We become more grateful people. It's just practice and sustain and keep on doing it. That's how transformation works. Viktor Frankl is quoted as saying, "It is this spiritual freedom," and by this, he's referring to our ability to choose our attitude no matter what's happening in the world. It is this spiritual freedom that makes life meaningful and purposeful. It can't be taken away from us. You see, it's innate. It can't be removed. It's one of our powers. We have the power right now to choose how to respond rather than react. And I don't know about you, but I've been doing a whole lot more reacting these days than responding. I dread watching the nightly news. I truly dread it. And I'll often listen to soothing music with my headphones while my husband watches it, because I know how triggering it is for me to watch that. Maybe you've had this experience too. My desire to be informed is messing with my sanity. So this book helped me to remember how to deal with that triggered self, you see. Now, the author, with her Buddhist background, she gives lots of breathing, mindfulness techniques from her tradition. And one of them is, when you're triggered like this, is to simply acknowledge what you're feeling and stay present to the emotion. So she has an example of becoming very angry and breathing in. I notice I'm angry. Breathing out, I'm here for my anger. I notice I'm angry. I'm here for my anger, staying with it. Or breathing in, I notice I'm feeling shame. Breathing out, I'm here for my shame. And we continually continue to breathe mindfully, stay with that feeling until it dissipates. I mean, did you know that emotions have a 90-second lifespan from the time they rise and crest and fall? That is, if we allow that. You see, if we shut them down, or if we attach a story to them in some way, well, they live on indefinitely until we allow them safe passage. And I believe this with all my heart, that our culture's inability to manage our emotion, to do this inner shadow work, is the very reason we are seeing so much negativity in the world. I really do. Because we're all unconsciously projecting our stuff onto each other. I mean, I admit I do that. So the universe is for us, not against us. And as the New Thought leader Ernest Holmes reminds us, we have to consistently know that. This isn't just a nice sounding thing that we say once in a while. We have to live that. We have to know it, even when outer appearances are telling us differently, or especially then, right? So when we learn to use whatever's happening in the world for our own awakening, holding on to the truth that this is for me in some way, it will become our greatest ally. That's why we were made for these times. That's why. Another Buddhist nun that I love to read, Pema Chodron, says this: times are difficult globally. Awakening is no longer a luxury or an ideal. It's becoming crucial, she says. Critical. She adds, we don't need to add more depression, more discouragement, or more anger to what's already here. And that makes sense to me. When I'm being those things, I'm just adding to the din, as I said. The earth, she says, seems to be beseeching us to connect with our joy, to find our innermost essence, and to be it in the world. That's how she says we can best benefit the world. Connect with our joy that lives within us and discover our innermost essence. That's going to save the world. Do you see? Because that's what we truly are. That's who we are. And when we connect to that and express it in the world, we're being who we've come here to be, in a greater expression of that. I love this stuff. It's so exciting. So I want to invite all of us today to notice reality with kindness, with kind eyes, and see how life responds. Try a softer gaze, a kinder interpretation. Give yourself the gift of compassion and acceptance whenever you find yourself beating yourself up or regret or feeling shame. Go there. Feel the feeling, let it come, and then feel compassion for how hard it is just to be living in these times as well. Give yourself a break. This is not easy work. See yourself through the eyes of forgiveness. And when we make even a tiny shift in how we view ourselves in the world, it matters. It matters greatly. And by embracing love as our unifying force, guess what? We heal not only the division within ourselves, but we contribute to healing the greater divide that we're seeing in the world. Do not underestimate the power of compassion and forgiveness. So guess what? This moment is recruiting us. May we be wise enough to listen and hear it, hear the message. May we be brave enough to believe that our presence matters. And above all, may we be bold enough to act, to be the change. We were made for these times, and our time is now. We're the ones we've been waiting for. And here we are together. God bless all of you.